Good evening and welcome to ONTV's live coverage of Election Night 2020. I'm Executive Director of ONTV, Ian Locke, and with me on the stage is George Sennett again on Election Night with me.
Election Night from 4 years ago, right?
4 years ago, yeah, 2016.
Hey,
George, we share the stage, and
it's great to be here again.
I really appreciate you coming in. Now, George is also a longtime volunteer of ONTV and a member of our board of directors. And so, yeah, it's election night, George. 4 years ago, we were here. Tonight, we have a similar format. If you haven't seen before, we try to stay local as much as we can. We'll give you a little sampling of what's happening nationally in the presidential race. But a lot of the coverage we're giving you tonight is how this election will impact Orion Township. So we have guests coming on tonight, interviews with our Township Clerk Penny Schultz in just a moment. And Township Supervisor Chris Barnett will be with us. And we're hoping to have Village Manager Joseph Young with us as well to talk about some of the things happening in the village.
But the exciting thing,
it's finally here.
It's finally here, right? It's been a long time coming. It seems like, with all these ads we get on TV and everything, and all the signs you see around town, it's unbelievable. But finally, it's here.
Yes, it seemed like it's I don't know if we've been waiting for it, or it's more like, okay, it's here. Let's kind of move on, and you're anticipating. There's excitement. If you're wondering why we're sitting in this split screen. It's due to a COVID situation here at ONTV and some short staffing. So George and I are social distancing here on the stage, but we put ourselves closer together electronically just for safety's sake. So, but yes, long lines today. I'm sure you saw that early, people out and voting. It was kind of nice to see all the numbers of people out there voting.
You had a lot of first-timers this time, too. My grandson and my daughter-in-law for the first time.
My daughter, first time.
Great.
Yep, and we have some footage of just some of what happened today. ONTV cameras were out and about collecting footage during this important election, and I don't recall one quite this large. It seems like there's a lot happening, a lot of involvement from people. Obviously it's in the news everywhere. It is just kind of all-encompassing in a way.
You can't turn on the TV or the radio or anything without hearing a lot of about the election and about all the controversy that's been going on around the country.
Absolutely, and
we've got some real close races too in terms of what's going on in the state here.
We do, yeah. Lissa Slotkin and Paul Young for Congress, John James and Gary Peters for the Senate.
Those are going to be tight races. From what I hear, everything we hear is going to be really tight races.
Yeah, there's nothing that says there's somebody that's running away with any of these races, right? So we're going to try to give you, as they come in, Oakland County's website. If you haven't been to the site, it's very, very comprehensive, very detailed, and the results come in pretty quickly. So, so we do have some videos to share with you. So let's do a little review video from the primary not too long ago, the August primary. And here's what took place locally here in Lake Orion.
Tuesday, August 4th, was Michigan's primary election. While polls remained open to the public, many voters chose to cast an absentee ballot due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As reported by the county clerk's office, just over 37% of Oakland County's registered voters took part in the August 4th primary. According to Orion Township Clerk Penny Schultz, the township received over 9,000 absentee ballots during the pandemic, compared to approximately 4,000 absentee ballots during the March 2020 presidential primary. Those who chose to vote in person found plexiglass shields, workers wearing face masks, and plenty of hand sanitizer.
So what we have done, just initially, just what we're all used to. When you go to the grocery store, someone is waiting on you behind a sneeze shield. And so we have 3-foot by 3-foot sections of sneeze shield for each of our processing tables. So when the voter comes into the voting precinct, we're practicing the social distancing, but the physical distancing is really what I like to call it, because we want to be physically distanced at those 6 feet. And we're placing stickers on the ground that tell people where they can go in those areas to maintain that physical distance. The other thing we're doing is all of our workers will be wearing masks. And there's gloves if people want to wear gloves when they're processing things, but we also have hand sanitizers for our workers. The thing we have to be careful about is that if people saturate their hands in hand sanitizer and then they touch a ballot, the residue from that can jam the system up and get into the tabulating system, and we want to be very careful that we're not doing it. So what we're asking voters to do is to manage yourself as you're coming into the precinct. Plan to wear a mask, plan to wait in a distance that's 6 feet away from the next voter. Also plan to wash your hands when you leave the precinct or use some hand sanitizer, much like what you would do when you go out into the world in your everyday business.
There were 2 proposals on the ballot during the primary election. Orion Township's Fire and Emergency Medical Services operating millage received overwhelming support from voters, with 6,353 yes votes to 3,884 no votes. Orion Township's police operating millage passed by a narrow margin, with 5,487 yes votes to 4,012 no votes. Orion Township Supervisor, Clerk, and Treasurer ran unopposed, but 5 Republican candidates ran for 4 available seats on the Board of Trustees. Brian Burney, Mike Flood Jr., Kim Urbanowski, and Julia Dalrymple advanced to the November election to face off against the Democrats, Eileen Knowlton and Cheyenne Dwyer. In county election results, Executive David Coulter defeated Andy Meisner to face off against Republican challenger Mike Kowal in November. In the race for prosecuting attorney, incumbent Jessica Cooper was soundly defeated by challenger Karen McDonald to face off against Republican Lynn Getz in November. Democrat Vincent Gregory defeated his opponents and will advance in his bid to take on Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard. For more information and up-to-date results, be sure to visit oakgov.com/clerk/rod/elections.
Hey, live TV. Welcome back to the studio. ONTV's General Election 2020 live here in the ONTV studios. Ian Locke with George Sinnott. We're supposed to have a live Zoom call in with Penny Schultz momentarily. We're having a little technical difficulty getting her in. We could see her, but we couldn't hear her, and we need to hear what she has to say. So hopefully we can get Penny back on the line. But we know that the election today, George, the turnout, we were just chatting about the turnout just before we went to the results of the previous election, right?
The turnout was fantastic from what I could gather.
Yes.
And especially in the, the absentee ballots. So.
Yes, I can hear you, Penny. All right, I think we have her.
Ready
so
to go with Penny.
What do you say? Technology, we've got Zoom calls, we've got phones, we have old school paper, we have all these different things to try to bring this election coverage to you. Penny Schultz joins us from her office at Township Hall, right?
Yes, I look a mess.
Well,
what a day.
You've been busy.
Goodness. It's been very busy, Ian.
So we've done this many times over the years, Penny, you and I chatting about the election and, your crew, the volunteers, all the people that come out to make this a success for our community. Can you reflect on your crew and what's happened in 2020?
Yeah, so we're really excited, Ian, to be wrapping up this 3rd election of 2020. And we had such a high voter turnout, and that's what you want. You want everyone voting. So we issued about 15,000 absent voter ballots. Very high turnout at each of the precincts today. Our chairmen were busy, our election workers were busy. And I think we're going to have about an 85% or better return.
Wow.
We're pretty excited that the whole community has engaged. It might even be higher than that. But it takes the whole community to do this. The schools, the fire station, our police officers, our churches, our post office has been amazing. ONTV helping us get the word out. And it's just phenomenal. The Lake Orion Review, our library. I'm so thankful. And the board, our township board, Chris Barnett, Donnie Steele, Brian Burney, Mike Flood, Julia Del Rimple, and John Steimel, they really supported this because they helped us get the equipment that we needed. It was a big expense, but it's paid off. And we've been able to tabulate almost 1,000 ballots per hour.
Wow.
And adjudicate them and get them ready so that we get the results to the county. And we're pretty excited about that. It's amazing.
Wow. And we know there were some adjustments to Township Hall over the, the last, during the pandemic.
Wow.
With the old chambers for the Board of Trustees has been converted to new space for the Sheriff's Office. Where have you been sequestered? And, it's like here at ONTV, we're kind of like, where did they go? Where are you at? And how are you counting these? Where are you guys locked in doing your jobs?
Yeah, so hold just a moment. Hi, this is Kenny. I'm on
Live
transfer you.
TV.
One moment, okay?
And our clerk, right, it's still happening. The election's still going on. Yes, the polls have closed, but the results are happening, right? So
I'll answer that question for you. We're at the fire station on Baldwin Road. Chief Rob Duke was so gracious to allow us to be sequestered there. And we have about 16 of our peers that are sequestered, and they're working together. They've been there since 6:45 this morning when the polls opened. They opened their polls and they started processing those ballots, taking them out of the envelope, preparing them to be able to scan into the system. And it's been a really good process for them. But we will be leaving the fire station the end of this month, and we'll be storing our equipment and also bringing some of it back to Township Hall. So we're pretty excited to be able to be welcomed to the fire station. We took over the place, but we're doing an amazing job out there, and we're really thankful for the space.
So you mentioned roughly 15,000 some odd absentee ballots processed. When did those start trickling in? And did you find, there's a point where you start saying, this is different than any other election we've ever had. So when was kind of that tipping point where you said, this is kind of a unique situation and a challenge for the clerk's office?
So we realized that it was going to be a tremendous challenge about the middle of September. And we were able to take those absent voter ballot applications that were sent in, dual applications for the March election, as well as the August election that were dual applications asking for both the November in those two elections. So we needed to take that massive group of absent voter ballot applications and to pull that list down and to be able to create our applications. And then we started with about probably 10,000. And it's when we first began with that 10,000 that was well above anything we had ever received before. We knew that we needed to prepare differently. And then you hear, all eyes are in Michigan right now because of Proposal 18. Voters want to have this opportunity to vote absentee, no reason. And we needed to be completely prepared for them. And that's where we made these expenditures for the equipment. Also staffing, that had to be beefed up. And the supervisor's office gave us one of their employees, on a part-time basis, but she was phenomenal. And Julie Savard actually worked in the clerk's office when she first started 30 some years ago. And then our treasurer, Donnie Steele, was so gracious to let one of her workers work part-time with us as well in the month of October. And then we hired some seasonal election workers that had some experience, and we were pretty grateful. So when you get your people in place and you get the training in place, you really can get a lot accomplished in a short amount of time.
Well, Penny, as always, thank you you're so busy. People really don't understand the chaos and the organization and everything that goes on this specific night. So thank you so much for taking some time and visiting with us here at ONTV and going live out to the community and sharing everything that you do. We thank you for your efforts and your staff, and especially for giving some time on this busy evening.
Ian, I thank you too, and I just want to give one little human interest piece.
Sure. Quickly.
So we had a member of our post office come here at about 7:30 tonight, and they had one ballot, and they brought it to us. And I was so thankful that the Lake Orion Post Office brought that one ballot. It's that important that every single vote is counted. So that's how the whole community has functioned. They know the importance of this. And that's a really great thing that they helped us out to get that ballot. And that's how important each person is. Thank you, Ian. You guys have a great night.
Thank you, Penny. And that's a great story,
Yeah,
George.
certainly
That really is. Penny, we'll see you down the line. Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Ciao.
Yep. And that's a great analogy. One ballot delivered by a postal worker to make sure that it happens for somebody, right?
Well, it's the community pulling together.
Absolutely.
And it shows you what kind of dedication the people have.
Absolutely. All right, back in the studio, Ian Locke with George Sinnott. That was a mouthful.
Yeah, right.
A lot of the proposals are long and detailed, and a lot of information on them. And we're going to see the results of those in just a bit. Maybe a sampling of those, and chat about those a little bit. Right.
Get an early read as to what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
See, and like we said, the results in Oakland County are really popping up on their site, so they're coming in quick. But before we move on to any results, we have another guest here in the studio. It's Township Supervisor Chris Barnett, who has a relaxing evening on election night 2020, running unopposed. So you get a different perspective on the evening, Chris?
Yeah, it is a different perspective. But I really love the process. We live in the greatest country on the face of the planet, and I'm such a junkie for this stuff anyway. And I have so many friends and really close friends that are running for offices all over the region, that it's really exciting. Even though I'm running unopposed, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve our residents in my position as township supervisor, I'm still on pins and needles because there's a lot of folks that locally and statewide and even in other states that are up for election that I've been sort of chatting with all day and all of the last couple weeks leading up to this, and it's an interesting time for sure. So.
Yeah. So since we're not at campaign headquarters, you're at an undisclosed location in the township, with friends and family, right? So we can talk about other things. We can talk about some interesting projects coming up on the township. There's always something, on your guys' docket that the community, the information needs to get out there to share with everybody. There's an interesting project that just kind of broke ground this week on a new facility. Can you share some information on that?
Yeah. So again, I am in the township in an undisclosed location with some family and friends, watching the results come in. But yeah, we have been just incredibly blessed in the township over the last. I've been in this role for 8 years. I absolutely still love my job. I'm excited to wake up every morning and come to work. Some of the things that are really getting a lot of attention right now are the development projects. The municipal complex is the big one. We're finally working on a project that's been talked about for 20 years, and it's on time, it's on schedule. We haven't run into any major issues. We haven't tapped our contingency fund yet, which is great news. Things are going really well with that project. I don't want to jinx it, but a lot of our residents who've been voting early and voting by absentee and coming into the office have really seen the situation that we are existing and living with, where we are literally on top of each other. So that's a great one. Then one of the things we just had a groundbreaking last Thursday. One of the ways we're paying for the new municipal complex, which is the police station and Township Hall, is through the revenue that's generated through the marijuana facilities. So we've approved several marijuana facilities in the township. Back in 2018, the township board passed an ordinance allowing these facilities. Currently, we allow 4 of the 5 licensing categories, which would be growing, processing, testing, transporting. The one that we don't allow in the township is the provisioning center, the point of sale, the dispensary. That is on the ballot tonight in the village to allow up to 2 facilities, I believe. So that may be in the community soon, but what we've seen in the township is these groups that have been coming, including the group that broke ground last week. There's a group that's going to be opening very soon. They are really grateful to be in the township. They're excited to follow all the rules, to do everything by the book. Welcome in our law enforcement, our fire, our ordinance enforcement. They want to be part of our community. They want to support our park. They want to support our police, our fire departments, and so that's been a really great thing. I think there was some skepticism and some really fair skepticism and concern about what these facilities might bring. We've been told by many of the groups that we have one of the most restrictive ordinances in the state, because a lot of these folks that are investing are looking all over the state for opportunities. And that's something that I'm proud of. I'm proud that we don't have an easy, it's not a low bar to get in. You got to meet a lot of strict criteria to do business in Orion. And all that is designed to protect our residents and make sure that this product doesn't end up in the wrong hands of the wrong people. And I'm really confident that what we're doing is going to do just that. And so far, it's been really going well for us. Most of our residents will drive by these facilities and never, ever even know that they're growing marijuana in them, because our ordinance doesn't allow signage, there'll be no neon marijuana leaf flashing. And frankly, these groups don't want it either. It's similar to the Powers beer distributor that we have here in town. They're very similar in that they want to follow the rules, they want to support the community, and they want to create a bunch of jobs. So we're grateful for their investment, and it's paying for the township project. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the big ticket things, like the large projects that you see. But something I'd like to remind everybody, and this will be my final question or discussion item real quick before we move on, but I'd like to call attention to your work during the pandemic with, when we shut everything down, working with the community and the community members to set up things, here at the Orion Center for resources for seniors and food and all that stuff. Could you reflect back on that time and how far we've come since then, and the relationships that were forged during that time, 6 months ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we saw across the region, and I've been really blessed to be elected by my peers to some key regional leadership roles. And what we saw across the region were a lot of communities really pulled back and kind of went into a hole. And the message that I had to our team was, our job is to serve our residents. And this is the time for us to step up, stand up, not hide. And I don't mean that to be negative. Every community had to make their own decisions, but we really were proactive. I mean, we forged an amazing partnership with Forgotten Harvest, where we've been feeding hundreds of families every week with free food. We set up our own little mobile pantry at the community center. We had dozens of residents filling orders for toilet paper and essential needs for seniors. Most of our staff were making calls to the seniors, just wellness calls, just checking on them. Do you need anything? And some of them would need things, toilet paper, they needed medicine or distilled water for their CPAP machine. Some of them were just grateful to hear a live person on the other end of the phone. And our staff got to hear all kinds of stories about grandchildren and all kinds of things. But I take no credit for this. The team that serves our residents is the best in the business. I may be a teeny bit biased, but man, every chance there was an opportunity, Ian, for them to step up and go above and beyond, they did it every time. And I just learned this weekend that we were nominated for some awards by our peers for some of the things that we did. I was able to present on a couple national webinars for our senior call program. I mean, that got some attention. They did it in Columbia. They literally verbatim copied our program in Columbia, South Carolina. I've gotten to know the mayor down there. So that's just the team that worked for our residents, that we're looking for unique and creative ways to serve our residents, even though most of us were working from our home. Yep.
And, we're obviously moving on, and those relationships that were forged back then are still strong and moving forward, and including ONTV's relationship with you guys as always, and a great partnership, on any project and communication, that sort of thing. And to sum up things here today, I just want to thank you for taking some of your time out of your evening to joining us on this election night. We won't hold you up any longer, so you can get back to your friends and family on this re-election evening for you. And again, just thank you for taking the time and popping in. And of course, we'll see you out and about.
Yeah. Let me just say, if I can close one thing. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, George. Thank you to all the amazing folks, Tessa and Joe and everybody at ONTV. We are so blessed to have you in our community. And thank you for your awesome coverage of another election. And I do want to say one thing. Tomorrow, we will be Orion strong, whether your candidate wins or not. Whether you like me or not, that's okay. I fully understand. Many people don't. Tomorrow we step up. We live together as one community. Hopefully we can turn the page and be Orion strong together. So thank you for this opportunity to chat, and I'll see you guys soon.
Great way to wrap it up, Chris. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. All right.
It worked out good.
Right. Orion strong, right? We are the community, and we move on from this.
Yeah, Chris does a good job, doesn't he?
He does.
He's a great communicator.
He is, and when you talk about, I mean, he's not shy about saying, "Hey, you like me or you don't." You know,
Yeah, right.
it's we're just doing a job here, and
Right. I know he's got a great team.
He does, and it's a unified team, and they always,
Yep.
when you have a unified vision, it's easy to get a lot of things done.
That's true.
Right? All right, so thank you for Chris for that. That was great, and I believe we have some footage or the story from the facility, the marijuana facility here in the township. I rolled the footage, I think.
On Thursday, October 29th, dignitaries gathered on a parcel of land across from the GM Orion Assembly Plant in Orion Township to break ground on a state-of-the-art cannabis cultivation facility. The Washington Township-based company Natribus purchased the land in 2019 and has spent the past year designing and planning the two-story, 53,000 square foot, $20 million facility.
On our parking lot. Thank you, everyone, for seriously coming out here. We really appreciate it. This has been a long, long journey, like Mike said. So we're going to go ahead and get these shovels in here. And thank you, guys. That's it.
So when we started, scouting sites for this, mega cultivation facility, we really wanted to be in a suburb of Detroit. We also wanted to be close to where we live. The three of us, myself and my two other partners, we live 15 minutes away from here. And yes, we could have got cheaper land way up north, but really this is a very high-touch business. This isn't something that you can manage remotely, or at least do it well. Orion Township really welcomed us with open arms. There wasn't fighting. There wasn't, hey, we need to try and get certain things passed because the city's really pushing back against it. So Orion was a perfect fit for us.
Natribus is hoping to complete construction on the facility in February of 2021. When open, the facility will create 65 new jobs and will generate revenue that will help pay for Orion Township's new building and police station.
What this means to Orion is, first of all, cannabis is legal in the state of Michigan, and the township has opted into 4 of the 5 license categories, so growing, processing, testing, and transport. The one we have not opted into at this point is a provisioning center, so they can't sell it here, but they can grow and process it and test it, and that's exactly what they're going to do at this site. And so not only will we get the property tax revenue from this vacant site, the site that's been vacant for 20 plus years, right across from the General Motors plant at Liberty Tech Park, but we'll also be able to get the annual permit revenue that we're using those funds to pay for our new police station and new township municipal complex, and not raising our residents' taxes. And that was always part of the plan, and that's why we were open to approving these facilities in areas that are not near our neighborhoods, not near our schools, but really this is a great spot for this to go. We're excited for their investment, and we have a great group of folks here that chose Orion, and we're glad to have them.
All right, back in the studio live here on Election Night 2020. Ian Locke with George Sinnott. Good footage, progress, new business coming to the township, right?
It's going to be quite a facility, isn't it?
It is, and like Chris mentioned, no signage on it. It's very nondescript,
Right.
and it's
And some
tax revenue and jobs,
jobs, right?
Yeah. So, hey, on the same topic of marijuana, medical, and otherwise, there's a proposal in the village. And to join us this evening, we have Village Manager Joe Young to check in on election night, to chat with us. And he's with us now via Zoom, and to talk about this proposal. And welcome in, Mr. Young. How are you, sir?
Ian, thanks for having me here tonight. Exciting time here for the whole country, and in particular our village. So we're thankful to be on your show this evening.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time on the live election coverage tonight. It's like we said at the top of the show at 8:30 when we went live. It's a lot of votes going in. Everybody at the polls, the lines George and I saw this morning. I stood in the line for a good half hour to get into my precinct to vote, and I'm sure we saw the same thing in the village. Can you share us a little more detail on the proposal that is up for decision in the village for today?
Sure. This was initiated by a petition signed by approximately 80 residents, which was all was needed in order to put it on the ballot. And the petition included an ordinance, with a very detailed ordinance that specified the criteria and the selection and the zoning allocations or prohibitions, as it was called. So we put it on the ballot, and they have it posted on our website where there was approximately 12 parcels of property that would be eligible along Heights Road and across from M24 on Heights there. So those are the only parcels that the dispensaries could be allowed. There would be up to 2 dispensaries, both medical and the adult use, under the way the ordinance is drafted. And it's got a tight time frame. If this passes and once it's certified, comes into effect within 10 days of that. And then there's a time frame for the application and then submission. And so we'll see how that all works out. We know we've got more than 2 candidates interested. So it's going to be interesting since the ordinance only allows for 2 locations for both the medical and recreational.
Okay. And so I'm sure you're watching the returns. I know Oakland County site, like we mentioned all throughout the show here with George, has been updating. A lot of the results come in much quicker these days with the updated technology. What does the proposal look like so far?
Right now, it says for the marijuana, yes, 516, no, 247.
Okay.
So looks pretty good.
Almost a 2-to-1.
Yeah.
Have you found voting, like just talking in general today, what a unique time we're in. This election is like no other that I can recall. And even George, before he and I were chatting before we went on the air, talking about, we've never seen anything like this before, as far as the sheer numbers of voters and enthusiasm for people to get out and cast their votes this year. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's great that we're getting more people involved and engaged. That's certainly key to having a best representation of what we want to have for our community. We need everybody's input. Just like right now, we have our master plan update. It's on our website that we're seeking public input on, and it's interactive. And we want to get, ideally, they'd like to get 300 to 500 village residents to comment on what they would like to see development-wise, including such as the marijuana facilities establishment. So their comments on that would be a great opportunity for everybody to speak and have their voice heard more than just a ballot. Ballot's important, but there's ongoing engagement, public engagement at the local level that we welcome and look forward to.
And residents can find information. You guys have a really detailed website. It's up to date. It's current. It has all of the meeting times and information, especially if it's, we're dabbling with in person there for a little bit with these meetings, and we're still kind of hanging on to the virtual or bridging both at the same time, which is a little difficult. But like with ONTV and the village as a partner with us, working to get those meetings out. Would you encourage viewers to check out your website? It does contain everything that I'm saying. I hope I'm not misspeaking.
Yes, it does. It does. It does. Certainly, we welcome and encourage participation. There's public comments twice at every meeting, at the beginning, at the end, as well as comments during the meeting and before. You don't have to wait for a meeting to call your village manager. I call him or text him or email him, and he'll respond promptly. I can speak to that. So we're here to serve the community the best way possible.
Well, Mr. Joe Young, Village Manager at the Village of Lake Orion, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy evening and watching the returns coming in to joining us here in the studio for our live election coverage tonight. And I know I'll see you on Zoom again soon. I'm sure, as we've done over the last 7 months, visiting with each other. All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you later. We really appreciate it. And have a good evening, sir.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Village Manager Joe Young, some good information, and especially about the process of how that proposal came to be. 86 residents said,
86,
hey, we're interested in this.
Right. And it looks like it's really, looks at this point at least, it looks like it's going to pass pretty easily. Based on very, very early returns.
Yes, we've learned our lesson since 2016 that, we have to pump the brakes sometimes when we start talking about potential results.
Got to be a little careful, right?
Absolutely. So as we move along, where are we at here? We're at 9 after the hour live here in the studio on election night. And here are the candidates. We're just going to review some of the candidates everybody knows, U.S. President and Vice President. as we're rolling here in 2020, George. It's Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, we know on the Democratic side, Donald Trump and Mike Pence, the incumbent. On the Republican side, we have Joe Jorgensen and Jeremy Cohen on the Libertarian. Also, Don Blankenship and William Moore at U.S. Taxpayers, Howie Hawkins, Angela Walker for the Green Party, and Rocky De La Fuente and Darcy Richardson in the Libertarian. So a full ticket of candidates running this year. So what are we looking at here? So again, like we said,
very, very early. Very early.
And we have 37 of 506 precincts reporting, I believe, in Oakland County is what we're looking at. And so far, Donald Trump looks like he has 55.17% of the votes to 43.07 for Joe Biden currently. Again, 37 precincts reporting of 506. And some, 3,000 votes for Jorgensen and Cohen, and, 3-digit results for the remainder of the field. And we have some assigned write-ins, too, 698 unassigned write-ins. So, which is your right.
That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
It eclipses, one of the parties running, actually. So that's where we're at, 47. Again, we encourage all of our viewers to get out to the Oakland County site. I'm not sure if our director has the lower third, so we can, I want to make sure everybody gets to the proper site. But if you go to OakGov, I think that'll get you there. But it's updating all the time as the returns are coming in. So please take a peek at those. And that was the presidential run so far in Oakland County.
Well, what's interesting is how quickly these numbers come up. The technology involved is pretty unique, isn't it?
It is, and we talked about this, I think back in 2016 when we were updating some of the accounting systems, like Township Clerk Penny Schultz was mentioning, how fast you can feed the information in and the information is tallied.
Right.
And it's once you're ready to go, you hit go and it transmits securely off to the county.
Directly to the county site, right?
All right, so this is one of
here's an interesting race right here.
This is the interesting one, George. Why don't you take this one?
It's Gary Peters for the Democrats and John James for the Republicans as far as U.S. Senator. And we have Valerie Willis for U.S. Taxpayers, Marcia Squire for Green, and Doug Dern for the Natural Law Party. So let's take a look and see how we're doing here. Based on what we saw earlier with the, looks like John James is in the lead there.
Yeah, it's very similar percentages to Biden and Trump. So John James so far in Oakland County with 47 precincts reporting out of 506. James is leading 56.53% over Peters, the incumbent, 41.93%. Now this is a pretty hotly contested race. John James, I believe, ran for Senate prior.
He did against Debbie Stabenow.
Yep, and now he's back again, and he's had, I want to say an advantage, but he's had that the name recognition that stuck around a while, and it's been a number of years that he's been still cultivating his name and his goals if he's elected to the community.
Right, so he's doing very well in Oakland County, and which I think is has leaned Republican for a number of years.
Yeah, it's not really surprising.
No, not at this point.
Nope. And we're obviously going to see more details as those come in. And here's another one. I mean, there's, like you mentioned earlier at the top of the show, there's a lot of races that will impact us here in Michigan and locally. And one of those is the 8th Congressional District.
This is going to be, I think, also another very tight race. We've got Alyssa Slotkin, who's Democrat, who's the incumbent, against Paul Young, who's a Republican, and Joe Hartman, a Libertarian. And again, this is a hot race. And based on what we saw earlier, looks like Paul is doing well along with the rest of the Republicans.
Correct. And 12 of 106 reporting. I'm thinking this is Orion Township's voting. I'm trying to get a gauge on this, but it says 12 of 106. Maybe that is Oakland County. But then we have, let's see, what is this? 44,000 votes so far for Young at 65.97% to Slotkin's 31.66 for the incumbent. And one thing Slotkin took advantage of when she came into office and won, some were surprised that she collected that seat here in this district, was that a lot of the Ingham County vote that if you ever look at the district, it's kind of shaped in an odd way. And it reaches all the way up to Ingham County, like East Lansing. So
you mean it's like one of those gerrymandered districts?
I don't know specifically if that's the case, George, but it
looks like a strange.
It's
strange
an odd shape, and many people don't realize that it does reach into like East Lansing. And I think the college vote really had an impact on Slotkin's candidacy and win. And the
But she had also knocked off a long-term person.
Correct.
I can't remember the name now. Right? Oh, Rogers.
Oh, was it Rogers? No, Bishop.
Bishop.
I'm
sorry.
Bishop.
Bishop.
Yep.
You're right.
So
that was a real surprise a couple of years ago. Yep. Now we got another. We'll see how it works out, but it's going to be an interesting race.
It is, and this one, I would have to say for the 46th district, representative in the state legislature, representing Orion Township, is Jody Lamacchia, right, the Democrat, and John Riley, the Republican. He's the incumbent.
Right.
And we've seen, I know Jody Lamacchia, her electronic campaign has been everywhere.
Everywhere, right. You can't go on Facebook without getting one of her
ads.
Yes,
emails, you name it, the mailings. But John Riley is in a solid lead, 71.28% to 28.59%. Again, that's 4 precincts of 37 reporting.
So it's very early.
It's still early, but I would see, the Republican incumbent is usually a tough customer to knock off in this area. Well,
the Republicans are, like you said, at least the early returns, they look like they're doing very well in Oakland County.
Yes. So those are some of the results we've had. State Board of Ed, or it is a State Board of Ed, right?
Right.
I'm looking at it, right?
Yeah.
A lot of these on the ballots for, let's say first-time voters are kind of going, what is this?
Yeah, State Board of Ed.
So it is a State Board of Education, and they are elected positions. And we have, Ellen Lipton, a Democrat, Jason Strayhorn, a Democrat. Is that Jason Strayhorn, the play-by-play or color announcer for MSU football? I think it is.
Could be.
Tammy Carlone, Republican, Michelle A. Frederick, the Republican, and Bill Hall, the Libertarian.
Now the ballot has a number of names here, but
there's even more.
But you can only take there's only 2 that are going to win.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people going for it. We have Hewer, the Libertarian, Adams from U.S. Taxpayers, as well as Levesque, I hope I'm saying that right, for taxpayers, and Marianne Herring for the working class, Haley McGurkin for the working class, and Tom Mayer for the Green Party.
So again, the top 2 will be installed there. So let's see. This looks like a pretty close race.
Yep, especially for the top 2. It looks like the 2 Republicans, I think, are in the lead. Yes, 26.78 to 26.64. Lipton and Strayhorn are at 19.6 and 20.68% respectively. So again, early returns, but Republicans lead in the early stages on this one for those 2
slots,
seats
right?
in Lansing, correct?
Right. Oh, this is going to be an interesting one as well. We got the incumbent, Mr. Coulter, who's a Democrat, who was appointed actually at one point, and now he's actually up for election against Mike Kowal. And we've got Connor, I won't even say the last name at this point.
But anyway,
these are the 2 guys that are probably going to be competing heavily here.
Yes.
So let's see how this one looks. This looks like it, again, if it's a Republican runaway again.
And just so, if you looked on your ballot, you saw it twice. One is a partial term that they're finishing, and then the actual full term that they're looking to fill, correct?
Right.
And what are we looking at here?
Well, we're looking like the Republicans are still in the lead here.
Yes.
It's early returns, but we got quite a few votes there. We got 300,000, roughly 300,000 votes so far, and it looks like the Republicans have got a pretty sizable lead there, percentage-wise.
Correct, and it was an interesting changeover back in, was it during the midterms? I believe it was that this swap took place. Al Brooks
after Patterson had
passed away, and
right.
you know, it was just an interesting change.
It was a Democratic board, basically.
Yes,
that appointed him. And now, with the election, we're going to see exactly what happens.
Yeah, and see if it's going to hold or
Right.
it might swap again. So as you can see, some of the results are coming in, and don't forget we have the prosecuting attorney, Karen McDonald, the Democrat, against Lynn Gates, the Republican.
It's going to be another interesting race.
This one's a little closer. Gates and McDonald sitting at, Gates is currently in the lead at 55.53, McDonald at 44.31%, 66 of the 506 precincts reporting. And it's interesting that the numbers, I really like the new system for data because they do keep updating more frequently than we saw in the past.
Right. Right.
And so you at least feel like you're kind of a part of the results as they take place, right, George?
But you're still a long ways away.
We are.
66 out of 500. So it still could go either way.
And Oakland County Sheriff, this is another. I want to say it was hotly contested, but there was, we saw from Vincent Gregory, the Democrat, going against Michael Bouchard, the longtime sheriff in Oakland County, the Republican. That's a tall order.
My gut feel is that Bouchard's pretty strong.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he was elected. Wasn't he selected as the top sheriff in the United States?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And we had, so I don't want to say full disclosure or anything like that, but ONTV and Sheriff Bouchard has been very nice to ONTV.
Right.
His time is given to public access studios for news events. We can call on him for quotes and information on specific things. So we thank him for that. And we can see he's leading 65% to 34.82% over Gregory currently. So a couple write-ins, too. Some brave, unassigned write-ins. George, were you writing in? Did you decide to pick up
that's
the
a job.
sheriff's
That's a job I don't think I want, Ian.
All right.
Oh, here's another one. The clerk in the Register of Deeds. Again, Elisa Brown, a Democrat, versus Tina Barton, a Republican. And Lisa Brown, I believe, is the incumbent. Is that correct?
I believe so. I don't know if the voice from
anyway.
Tessa. Yes, Brown is the incumbent. So we're seeing it. We're seeing the Republicans turn out as expected.
Boy, they're strong here
Absolutely.
so far. But again, it's 66 out of 506 precincts, so it's early, very early. But the trend looked like certainly it's leaning towards the Republican side.
Correct. In Barton, so far, 56.9%, and Brown at 42.98%. And as you mentioned, we've seen races that we thought were runaways come down to literally hundreds of votes by the next morning.
Right.
And it completely flipped what we saw going on in this situation. And one thing we are not going to do, we are not projecting anything. We are going to let the numbers fall where they may.
I think even the pros learned their lesson the last time, right?
I hope so, because there was a lot of Pepto-Bismol that was consumed because of the back and forth we saw in the national media.
Right.
So that's why we have fun here in the local side of things here at ONTV, General Election Night 2020 here in the studio. Ian Locke, George Sinnott here bringing you the results, or at least the beginning of the results
Very preliminary.
of this election night. Tessa, do we have anything else? Yes, Oakland County Treasurer, of course. Robert Wittenberg, the Democrat, and Joe Kent, Republican. We've seen Joe Kent signs everywhere.
Yep.
And we're seeing...
It looks like they're working.
Yeah, they're working.
The signs are working,
works.
right?
And we've seen similar percentages at this point in the evening, 66 precincts of 506 reporting. Kent in the lead with 58.77%, and Wittenberg sitting at 41.08%. Very similar percentages we're seeing throughout the ballot so far tonight.
How about the Water Resources Commissioner? We got Jim Nash, who's a Democrat, against Jim Stevens, a Republican. And
the Battle of the Jims.
And here we go again.
Yeah, it's very similar.
Similar percentages.
right? And it looks like votes cast so far with the 66 precincts reporting is 280,288 so far. Stevens with the 13-point lead so far, 56.16%, and Jim Nash, the Democrat, with 43.69 so far. And again, tallies are still coming in, and they will be all evening and probably into tomorrow and so on. So, County Commissioner, George.
Oh, here's one here that we probably know.
Yeah.
Here's Michelle Bryant, who's a Democrat, who's going up against the incumbent, Michael Gingell, who is from Lake Orion, a Republican. And this looks like a runaway, actually, at this point.
It's really not surprising. And we have one precinct being reported out of 25.
Out of 25, right?
Gingell has been around for so long,
right,
and on the Board of Commissioners for so long. He's really a fixture on that board. He's a friend of ONTV, been in the studio many times,
right,
and is very active in the community. But Michelle Bryant, she's got a ways to go. All right, so as we said, here in Orion Township, the main positions are running unopposed. We have Supervisor Chris Barnett, Township Clerk Penny Schultz, and Treasurer Donnie Steele, all being re-upped to their positions. Running unopposed.
Unopposed, yep, right.
Now, Township Trustee, who do we have here, George?
Well, we got Christine Dwyer.
Oh, I think it's Cheyenne.
Cheyenne, I'm
right.
sorry, Cheyenne Dwyer as a Democrat. Eileen Knowlton, another Democrat. Brian Burney, who's been on the board now for some time.
Yep.
Julia
Dalrymple.
Yep. Who's a Republican. Mike Flood, who's also a longtime fixture. And Kimberly Urbanowski, who's also a Republican.
Kim Urbanowski, former director of the Chamber of Commerce here in Lake Orion, that we know very well here at ONTV. And okay, so we have a nice mixture of close races here. Let's see.
Looks like the incumbents are doing pretty well.
They are, and Urbanowski's hanging with the incumbents. So it looks like Dwyer and Knowlton are sitting at 7% and some change, while the incumbents are splitting pretty much the rest of it up at 21%, almost across the board. We had some assigned write-ins, about 41 votes, but it's odd. We have some votes reporting in, but it says 0 of 15 precincts reporting, so I'm assuming that is the write-in, or not the write-in, but excuse me, the absentee ballots who have been tallied, so I'm assuming that's how that could take place.
That's probably true, yeah.
And we're going to see a lot of,
yeah,
like Penny said, 16,000, just here in Orion Township alone with the absentee ballots.
Right. Now, Justices of the Supreme Court, I'm just trying to look at the ballot here and see how many we've got to pick.
Okay, well, I'll go down the names as you dig that up. Susan L. Hubbard, Mary Kelly, Bridget Mary McCormick, Carrie Lee Morgan, Catherine Mary Nepton, Brock Schwartzel, and Elizabeth M. Welch, all up for that, running for that position. I think it was 2. I believe.
Maybe. I'm still trying to find.
It was 2. Okay,
2.
Thank you, voice from our director, Tessa. That was 2 openings, and what do we have here? Ooh. Boy, this is an interesting.
Mary McCormick.
Mary McCormick with a 30% sizable lead.
Interesting.
But the 2 is going to be divided up between, it's looking like Mary Kelly and Elizabeth Welch are kind of the 2 others, sitting at 72%, so they're battling it out for that second slot, but it's kind of a runaway for one of those positions with Bridget Mary McCormick.
McCormick looks like she's
sizable
well.
lead, but that should be an interesting one. That could come down to, we're talking, hundreds of votes if it all ends today or tomorrow. So anyway.
Oh, here we go.
All right. So
Township
do we need a? This is the library board. Do we want to? I think we should have some sort of discussion on this because it was an interesting mistake or an oversight.
They all had to run as write-ins because the names did not get on the ballot. So.
Yep. So when you sat down today, you saw it was blank.
It was blank, exactly. So basically, you had to write in the names, and some of us know some of the people that are on the board, obviously.
Yeah.
So we we personally got a list of people that were interested in running, and so we wrote in all the names.
So maybe viewers at home knew the names, some
Oh, yeah.
didn't. But Mary Ann Thorndecraft, Mary Peugeot, James Abramchik, James Phillips, Bert Quinn, and Michael Luna as the write-in on the Township Library Board.
And I think they all get on. I'm not sure.
If that's the number on the board, if they all get one, they're all incumbents.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Tessa. So if you get one vote, you're in, I guess.
Yeah, if you got one vote,
you go
you're
vote
in.
for yourself, and you call it a day.
Right.
All right, village council members. So this was interesting. So we've had some long-term serving village council members call it a career and move on to other things. And so we have, who do we have up there?
Michael
George?
Lamb, Sarah Lussinger, Bradley Matheson, Jerry Narsh, Kenneth Van Portlet. He's been around for a long time.
Yep.
Lee Stephen Wilson.
So a couple new names on that list, and what are we looking at here?
Ooh, looks like Jerry Narsh is, and Michael Lamb are doing pretty well.
Yep, and Ken Van Portfleet also hanging in there. Again, we have 0 of 1 precincts reporting, so we're assuming these are the absentees. And also, who is that? Sarah Lushinger. I hope I'm saying that right. Sorry, Sarah. 187 votes so far. So it looks like I see a couple unassigned write-ins, only 9 votes. So it looks like, how many are on that board? I have to say pretty much everybody running, I believe, gets a seat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll see. Jerry Narsh, of course, long-time
sheriff or police
chief in
right.
Lake Warrion, right? He was everywhere on town, still is,
right.
even though he's moved on to a new position.
And I understand he's even a movie star now.
Oh, yeah, he is. Several movies under his belt.
Right.
All right, LOCS board members. So this is also another a large race, a lot of names coming out.
Yeah.
Danielle Brissett, Joel Cole, Susan Flaherty, Bridget McQuiston, incumbent Misty Morris, Edwina Patterson, Amy Sylvester, Scott Taylor, also an incumbent, and Janice Zale, all running for those seats. And
trying to figure out how many.
So with so many names, we have to try to decipher what are we looking at here. So it looks like Scott Taylor so far has the highest percentage at 15% so far, and Joe Cole at 13%.
Yep.
And
Susan
what's
Flaherty
the next one
is
in
not far
line?
behind.
Yep. So it looks like Zale, Morris, and let's see, what is it, Flaherty? They're all kind of tight together there. Birgit McQuiston at 10%, the incumbent, been on the board a number of years, and a friend of ONTV there, looking like
right.
she's a challenge for her seat. But again, it's early.
Kind of looks like it.
It's a challenge for the seat, but it's early. We're not calling anything here on General Election Night 2020 in the ONTV studios. Ian Luck with George Sennett. Thank you for tuning in with us. I'm not sure where we're at in our rundown. There's a lot of results. I think, what else do we have?
Oh, here we
Tessa,
go.
was that it? Oh, we're just going to look at some results before the bottom of the hour. We're approaching 1 hour into our program. What are we looking at here? The proposals.
Oh,
we forgot.
There we go. The
The
proposals.
state proposals, yes. So we are looking at proposal.
Is that proposal?
Help me out, Tessa. We can't see
that looks like
the
proposal
proposal
one.
name.
Is
Is that
that the,
proposal 1?
That's the parks and. That's the parks.
20-. Okay.
It's taking the money from
oil
drilling into and putting it into the parks.
Oil and gas, right, to go
Right.
to state parks and preserving land and that sort of thing. And it is.
That was passing with
I
flying
think
colors.
that one's
so
going to
far.
make it, George.
I think so. With 83 out of 506, I think it's got a
Yeah.
good shot at doing it.
Yeah, there was some news that the Sierra Club was kind of opposed to that, but I'm not going to. 20-2, which I
20-2
believe is
is
the need a warrant to search electronic devices.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I'm glad to see that is sailing through with flying colors. I thought that would be a thing already, where you need a search warrant to be able to search your electronic devices for personal information.
Right.
So, and I think that's the Constitution, the state Constitution needs to be amended to reflect technology's change and
Right.
the modern age, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Right? Tessa, how are we doing?
This is the county proposal?
And the county proposal, for the parks, right? So that looks like that is sailing through as well.
That's going through very well, yeah.
Yep, and
it looks like that's going to make it. And we're getting up there. It's 83 out of 506 precincts reporting.
Yep.
So we're probably getting a little closer to what's going to actually happen.
Yep, and we know on the county parks, I have to say, the county does a fabulous job with the parks.
Yeah, they do.
That they manage and they have. There's such a variety, and you can see by the turnout, the county saying, "Yep, we love them too."
We got some great parks here in Lake Orion too.
Oh, is this the marijuana dispensary proposal from the Village? Okay, so what are we looking at here? It is
Ooh, that
still...
looks like it's going to fly through as well.
Yeah, it is still, it's under almost 2 to 1, right? It's 516 to 247.
Yeah.
That's an interesting, it's the new age we're living in, I guess,
well,
right?
Hey, you're going to have a lot of people walking around high.
Oh, I hope not.
No, I don't think so.
On the medical side of things, there's, benefits. You're going to have people that are supporting it and opposed to it, and I don't think you're ever going to convince some to come over to your side. But it looks like the Village with a petition signed by 86 residents and got it on the ballot.
They got it on the ballot, and it looks like it's flying through.
That is the election. That's how our electoral process works, right? You petition your government, and you see where it falls, right?
Yeah. Whoa, it looks like we get some very early numbers here on the national scene.
Very early, yes. So Biden and Trump, we know that's kind of the big I don't want to say elephant in the room or the donkey in the room, but it is the big big to-do.
That's the big one.
We're looking at, again, early projections.
Very early.
And I think this is through the Associated Press, correct?
Yes.
The AP. And what we're looking at here from the AP is you see the United States, some states are pink, some are light blue. So they're saying, let's say Michigan and Wisconsin, Texas, Florida and Georgia and Maine are trending towards Trump currently, and the light blue are trending towards Biden. So as we know, with the sheer volume of absentee voters, those votes being processed, that you could see wide swings in results and trends. So,
the polls haven't even closed yet on the West Coast. So,
correct.
We're still going there.
Correct. And
but the important states are going to be Florida and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and
Michigan, Arizona,
Texas maybe.
Texas. Boy, Texas?
Maybe.
Going blue? I
doubt
it. I doubt it as well.
It'll be interesting to see it.
But who knows? I mean, this election is one of those unique events in history that we're kind of just riding along saying, where's this crazy ride taking us? So
it'll be very interesting.
It is.
And I don't think it'll be decided tonight.
No, I have a feeling it's going to, I hope it doesn't linger too many days, but I have a feeling Friday, or...
Oh, yeah. I think by tomorrow night we'll know.
You think so? It'll be...
I think so.
Well, you heard it from George. The guy who's running for sheriff of Oakland County. No.
Yeah, right.
So, Tessa, is that all we have for the viewers? Okay. So that's, I think we're kind of wrapping up here. We went a little long, which is okay. We got to get the information out. And we appreciate everybody tuning in. And all the first-time voters out there. My daughter was a first-time voter. I know you were your grandson, the first-time voter. And it was a great experience. The security of the election here in Orion, I saw it firsthand with my daughter, where she had an absentee ballot and no photo ID because she doesn't have a driver's license just yet. And so... they did the right thing. Sign an affidavit. Your absentee ballot is now null and destroyed, and then you come in and you can vote in person. So, seeing the process and the machinery behind it, that Penny Schultz and her crew are running this election and making sure that it's secure and accurate is it's refreshing. And
having worked the polls in the past, I can tell you right now that it's a very secure system.
Yep.
Michigan has a very, very secure system.
Yep.
And you can't vote twice. At least it's been my experience. I've
Yeah,
tried it several times, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, you're running for those the drain commissioner, George. You can only vote once, right?
Right.
So, well, anyway, George, 4 years ago we were sitting here. I'm pleased to share the stage again in the studio with you for election 2020.
It's been great.
And it was a wild ride. I know that for the last 4 years, and I'm sure the next 24 will be even wilder. But there are some close races here locally. Keep your eyes on and head out to the Oakland County site at OCOV and make sure you keep track if you're a political junkie and you're following these things. The data should be trickling in all night long.
It will be.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. George Sinnott here with us in the studio. I'm Ian Locke, Executive Director, ONTV. Thank you for tuning in to General Election 2020. Thank you to our Director Tessa Penzine, and the whole crew at ONTV, and Penny and Chris and Joe Young for taking time to zoom in and give us some of their busy time on this busy night.
Great.
We'll see you all next time. Good night, everybody. We'll see you.
Good night.